As people continue to roll in, please let us know where you're at. Also, wanted to say happy belated Employee Appreciation Day. How did you celebrate? Share in the chat. Did you do anything exciting? Did anything happen at work? Feel free to share. Over at Bucketlist, we saw some of our clients and end users do some really fun things around Employee Appreciation Day. Some of our clients, they gave additional employee points out of that week to celebrate Employee Appreciation Day to increase the fun. That week, we also saw some of our end users redeem some cool things like a cheese crawl, Botanica family membership, Skywalk Zoo memberships, Farm Pass. Lee, what were some of the things that your team did or things that you saw on surrounding employee appreciation?
We had a few things. One of them is that, first of all, I wrote a nice little letter to the entire team and then encouraged them to use our gratitude channel or write private notes, their individual team members, because I think just a big thing is just reminding everyone to like actually express that appreciation, which they might need a little bit of a nudge for. But we also did a whole month of wellness related subscriptions. So we what's the word? I'm losing it. Not sponsored, not subscribed. Basically, we gave them money to choose their own wellness related subscription of their choice. And I think the team also played Coworker Feud. I'm not 100% sure about that one, but because I didn't get to go, but I think that they did do some form of like a fun game show event.
Oh, that's so fun. All of that sounds great. There's some pretty cool things in the chat here too. Like some people had days off. Looks like some lunches, churro bar. That is cool. I would love to see a churro bar.
I could go for some churros.
Part of it.
Love churros.
Awesome.
Also, I Googled it and very surprisingly low calories, which I was really in shock about. I was like, this is deep fried dough. I thought that it would be, but apparently the average is true. 115 calories. That's not bad.
Win-win.
There you go.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. So for today, we thought we'd keep it with the theme of Employee Appreciation Day and do a twist and focus on inclusion for this session around employee appreciation. You cannot truly be appreciative if inclusivity isn't at the forefront. So we thought it would be a really great topic to kind of work with today. Inclusivity isn't just nice to have, it directly enhances performance. Both McKinsey and Harvard Business Review have research which shows that corporations identified as more diverse and inclusive are 35% more likely to outperform their competitors. Teams with inclusive leaders are 17% more likely to report that they are high performing, 20% more likely to say that they make high quality decisions, and 29% more likely to report behaving collaboratively. And a 10% improvement in perceptions of inclusion increases work attendance by almost 1 day a year per employee, reducing the cost of absence. And with that said, my name is Jenna. I'm going to be your host for the webinar today. I'm passionate about wellness and employee recognition, and I'm committed to fostering a positive work culture that emphasizes teamwork, communication, and mutual respect. Very excited to introduce the speakers for the hour today. We've got Lee here with us from Confetti. Lee is the co-founder and chief executive officer at Confetti. She's a visionary culture leader with a decade of experience in B2B sales. She's one of the world's experts on remote event planning and virtual team building. Thanks so much for joining today, Lee. Really excited. We also have Aaron here by day. Aaron is a culture advocate at Bucketlist Rewards with over 12 years experience in marketing and advertising. He's a strong advocate for employee rewards and recognition, and he loves work cultures built around fun and being yourself. By night, a dad bod, father of 3. He loves to play sports, specifically hockey. Just recently, he started his own draft style ice hockey league. And when Aaron's not playing hockey or spending time with the family, you can likely find him playing darts or playing board games from his collection of over 140, which you could probably see behind him. If there's any gamers out there, definitely reach out to Aaron. He's got them all. Today's webinar is being presented to you by Bucketlist Rewards, the #1 employee recognition platform, and Confetti, a virtual events platform. We're really excited to be here today with you to talk about inclusivity in employee appreciation. And of course, we'll just quickly touch on some housekeeping items here before we kick things off. So you're going to see some buttons at the bottom of the screen. The first one I'd like to draw your attention to is the chat button. Feel free to engage and participate within the chat. And if at any moment you're having any technical issues, we may be able to assist you through the chat. We'll also have a Q&A as the presentation is going on. Feel free to submit some questions that you would like to have answered, and we'll do our best to get to as many as possible. And during the course of the presentation, we're going to put up a few polls, so we would love your participation and engagement on that. And when we do share the polls, it's anonymous and aggregated numbers. At the conclusion of this presentation, you'll all earn professional development credits for your participation and engagement. So make sure you stick around for those at the end. And this event is being recorded. So if you want to play it back or watch it or send it to anyone else, you can definitely feel free to do that. And an icebreaker question, of course, would love to hear from you. What's something you admire most in a work colleague? How about you, Erin or Lee? Anything that comes to mind?
I like Jen's sense of humor, but I also think transparency, just building a relationship with like empathy and transparency and making it fun. Yeah.
The humor is good too. It's always nice to have a good laugh at work and not be so serious all the time. How about you, Erin? Anything that stands out?
I was actually just going to say the exact same things as Lee. I think she read from my script there. No, those are two things that I align with as well. And I see a lot of great comments coming in here. You know, honesty, transparency. Yeah. Communication. Obviously, that's really important as well. So yeah, there's lots of great responses here. We totally appreciate everyone's participation here. Love seeing it.
Yeah, I definitely feel like communication is huge too. For sure. So our agenda for today, we're going to just be touching on some topics here. So the importance of inclusivity and employee appreciation. We're going to go over 4 strategies to make employee appreciation an inclusive and personalized experience. We'll have a group discussion. What does inclusivity look like in your organization right now? There's going to be some freebie resources as well throughout today, and we'll do some key takeaways and the Q&A at the end. But please, if you have questions throughout, pop them into the chat. You don't have to wait till the end. Always happy to answer your questions throughout as well. We like to keep our sessions interactive, so definitely participation is always awesome. Great. So I think I'm going to be passing it over to you, Lee. Take it off from here. Thanks so much.
Amazing. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Lee. I'm the founder and CEO of Confetti, and hopefully we will provide you with the next hour of lots of value and things for you to learn from. So before we begin on the 4 ways to make employee appreciation inclusive and a personalized experiences, I just wanted to share some of the fundamentals. So the first one is just educating your team members on how to give appreciation. And there are 6 pillars to keep in mind for employee appreciation that I want to share with you all. So on the next slide, we're going to talk about the 6 pillars. It's important that HR or whoever is responsible for leadership and mentoring just educates the team on how to give appreciation. Even just doing this alone for your employees, like during the day, during the month, is going to help them make them feel better. So the first one is listening to what it is that they are saying. So you know, there's the famous saying of we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And I think human beings, we like to sometimes talk more than we listen. But if we can just first listen to what it is that they have to say, that's really great. We should treat them as humans. We forget that we're working with individuals that are complex human beings. We're human, they're human, and we are kind of, you know, all forced to work together. But we're also just human beings that are spinning on this rock in the middle of nowhere called Earth. So we should just be a little bit more empathetic and know that some people have their bad days and their good days, and mesh through that. We should mentor them through their career goals, not just our goals, is really understanding through that listening what it is that an employee is looking for in their job, how they want to accomplish their career. And you'll find some really valuable insights through that. You can also mentor them by making sure that they know that it is important to give employee appreciation. And we'll talk a little bit more about how you can help with that front. Recognizing the success and celebrating them. So pretty straightforward on that front, but you know, an employee does something good. recognize it, celebrate it with them, depending on how big that accomplishment is. And then learning what their incentives are. I like to kind of talk about the love languages. If we're all familiar with the 5 classic love languages, I think the ones are like quality time and words of affirmation and gifts and physical touch, but we won't be touching our employees. We were just going to focus on all the other love languages. And I think it's really important because different employees appreciate different types of different levels of appreciation. And we'll be talking about that in the next slide, essentially, what are the different ways. So within the 6 pillars, the first one is to do things, to do employee appreciation regularly. So once per month seems to be the sweet spot to maintain a pretty high morale and engagement, but studies found that employees who are recognized at least once per month are 50% more engaged. Other studies have shown that frequency of recognition directly correlates with satisfaction at work. So don't limit yourself to once a month. If you can sprinkle a little positive words, once a week, every time you touch base with them, I'm sure that will go a long way. And, I've had my team leads come to me and say, hey, I'm really bad at giving recognition. Like, what should I do? And I say, put it on your schedule. Once a month, 30 minutes, block the time out and make sure that you're actually actively spending the time to just shoot a good note over to your employees, either publicly or privately, which we'll talk about. The second one is do it immediately. So recognize a particular behavior immediately when it happens during that day or during that week is best. But, if time caught by and you can do it that month, that is also okay, as long as you do it as close to the action as possible. The third one is do it in a very specific manner. So how did it affect your team or you personally? What personal importance did their action have on that, as opposed to just being like, hey, good job lately, Sam. You can get very granular and say, hey, when you did this project and we worked on A, B, and C, you were so transparent, you were so communicative, you nailed this out of the park because of A, B, and C. So the more that you can give those details, the more that they'll be like, okay, this is authentic, this is real, I'm doing something good. And at Confetti, we also like to tie the appreciation back to our company values. So in our gratitude board, which we'll talk about, every time someone gives a shout out, they can actually tag the company values and see which one of those actions contributed to that. I think we're on 4th, is encourage your employees to do it for their team members. Everyone needs to be involved in the process. And if you don't tell your managers that this is an expectation that you have, many times, often not, it doesn't happen. And I think that this is important. Everyone has their own upbringing. I know as a kid, I didn't get a lot of positive words of affirmations, and it took a lot of learnings for me to realize that this is something really important for people. And now it's like second nature. But at first it was hard to get those words out. And many people aren't as transparent and open about, things that made up their livelihood and the way that they are. And so telling managers that you need to do this is something that's important. So based on a certain finding that we found, lack of appreciation is a major reason why American employees resign from their jobs. Based on a survey, at least 65% of workers reveal that they did not get any appreciation for their good work during the previous year. I'm sure all of you can relate to some capacity, whether in your current job or in previous jobs, where you're like, I just wish someone told me that I did a good job and that you felt like you deserved it, because I'm sure you did. We like to put, we have 360-degree reviews at Confetti. That means employees obviously get a performance review from their manager, but also employees do a performance review for their manager. And those managers also do side-by-side reviews with any of the colleagues that they work with. And during those performance reviews, when we survey our employees, we ask them whether they feel appreciated by their manager, and we calculate those, and then we're able to essentially mentor the managers in using gratitude more and doing it in a very data-driven way. Location is number 5. You have public versus private. So I like to always mention there are many different cultures within the organization. You have a team level culture, departmental level culture, and a company-wide culture. And there's really a time and place for each one of these. It's a little bit of an intuitive feel, but if something is very specific for your team, you know, give the shout out for the team. If something's kind of specific to the department, give it to that. And if something you think had a larger effect on the entire company, that really should be a shout out that's given across the organization. And it's very normal that as the company grows, essentially there's a little bit less shout outs that happen from a company-wide perspective, but we try to encourage our team members to give shout outs. We have this thing called like a blog in, and usually every month, each department is responsible for sharing what it is that they worked on this month and like what was their main priorities. And that's a really good time and place to give little shout outs like, hey, this person led this project and this person, you know, came up with this idea. And then the last one is type. So there are 3 different types: written, promotional, and monetary. So just know the different types and know that each employee needs a little bit of everything, a little bit of that, you know, verbal, written appreciation, the things that don't cost you any money, promotional title changes to make sure that they know that they're progressing, and the monetary compensation to know that they've done good work and it means that they deserve more. So Aaron In, CEO of Ultimate Chronos Group, has said gratitude is not about a one-time holiday party or a day off or a spot bonus. It is about creating a culture of gratitude. And I couldn't agree with this more. Amazing. So we're going to go to our first poll question, right?
Yeah, I'm going to pop up a poll question here, and hopefully I can get that. It'll be here in a second. Why isn't it leaving? There we go. It takes a second for that drop down screen to come. All right. Let me know if you can see the poll here. So how inclusive is your organization's culture? We've got this poll up here. Feel free to engage. Just leave it up for a few moments here.
Seeing a good range of responses here.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, good range here. Let's share these results. You should see the results on the screen there. And we'll just head into the next slide.
I was curious though, does the response here surprise anyone? You know, it's 60.
I was pretty surprised the amount of greats that we have. I'm really happy to see that. It's also nice to even just see that people are making progress. I mean, like, progress isn't linear, right? It's like,
for sure. Yeah, the making progress is always great to see as well.
And that's probably why a lot of people are here today, right? Because this is part of making progress.
Awesome. I'm just going to pass it back to you, Lee.
Awesome. So we're going to start off by just talking about the 4 ways to make employee appreciation an inclusive and personalized experience, as we promised. So the first one is appreciating diversity in backgrounds, interests, passions, and job roles. So I thought a really cool fact and stat for you all to know is 83% of millennials are actively engaged at work when companies foster inclusive environments. So we're really seeing a trend as we're getting into the younger demographics of the workforce that are coming in or have already been joined, that they are very much an advocate for that inclusive environment. I think that's really wonderful. For our first strategy, we're going to have employees who trust their workplace is inclusive and equitable. So there's 3 different stats that we wanted to share with you here today. So one of them is 9.8 times more likely to look forward to going to work. That's huge. Just knowing that they feel like they're equal, that they're being included. 6.3 times more likely to have pride in their work, and 5.4 times more likely to want to stay a long time at their company. So I think, you know, what this is really sharing is that it's profitable. It pays off to create and foster this culture and environment. We're going to talk more about it. So in the next screen, we're going to talk about that first strategy continued. So uplifting voices globally as a form of employee appreciation. So there's hosting events that reflect inclusivity and diversity. Diversity events should be a safe learning space, and it is important to source events created by the community that they're about. So uplifting voices globally as a form of employee appreciation. So one example of that is honing in on Women's History Month, which is March. And we have, for example, a handful of different experiences at Confetti that really help uplift women's voices within the office. You can host events that reflect inclusivity and diversity by creating other like educational and celebratory factors like different lectures or trivia events. I think one thing that's really important to note, though, is that you really should have a professional. I know a lot of like HR folks like to try to create their own events, their own trivia events, but it's really important actually to have a professional lead those. DEI events should be a safe learning space. So just for example, within our Women's History Trivia, I can't speak on behalf of other companies, but people aren't shamed for not knowing the answer, and the context for the answer is actually given inside the trivia question, because we don't want people to feel like, oh no, I shouldn't have even come because I don't know the answers to this. I feel, ignorant or bad about myself. Plus we have a Sparkle point system that just keeps people engaged even if they don't know the answers. And I think that that's super important. The other thing I want to share is it's important to source events that are actually created about the community that they are about. So mentioning all of our DEI events, including like Women's History Month, are exclusively led and created by that community, by the community that is being showcased. The third one is people ask me like, I'm afraid to do one experience and like not all. So like only doing like a Black History Month, but not celebrating Pride Month. And they're afraid that those initiatives are going to backfire because some of these companies are small and they're like, I feel like I either need to go big or I need to go home when it comes to DE&I. And I think that things that are important to realize is that silence is also an action. Not doing something is also an action in and of itself. Our decisions to do or not to do are both taken into consideration. So I encourage companies to not be paralyzed by the fear of taking action for diversity, equity, and inclusion, just being very communicative and making a policy around it, and just be vulnerable with your employees. So you can say something like, due to increased interest, if you're we've received requests to do a Black History Month. If you're interested in doing a Women's History Month, here's a way for you to apply and speak up. Or you can say something like, we're trying something new out and we know that we can't honor like all the communities and all the minorities right now, but we want to do our part in something and we want to get the ball rolling in our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. And if you want to see something specific, we encourage you to speak up as well and apply or speak to HR or any other of those kinds of resources that you can send over their way. On the next page, we're going to talk about acknowledging different interests and passions. So tuning into who your employees actually are beyond their work life. This is how you really make employees feel appreciated. And I think, one thing that is important to note is I maybe have like a little bit of a different take on how to create best friends at work, but I don't think it should be a forced approach. I know a lot of people within our office are like, hey, I have my best friends. Like, I don't need to make a best friend at work. Maybe they will find one or two, but not being best friends with everyone. And that's also okay. I think that's one of the benefits of remote work, that you can be like, hey, you can come in, you can check in, and you can still like and appreciate and respect the other person because they're smart. And I think that they're respectful. And those are the people that we want to work with. If we find some people within the office that end up happening to be our best friend, amazing. But also trying to take different time off for different traditions. So at Confetti, we realize that not all the federal holidays work for all the different religions. So giving people the ability to take off depending on what holidays they personally celebrate. And the other thing is like cooking groups. So we have a Slack channel that allows people to share different recipes and meals that they're creating. And so much of meals relate to culture and, where people grew up and what kind of spices they're using. And I think that there's so much to do with food that can connect us as a community and as a workforce. And then the last point here that I wanted to share is just trying different programs for different departments. So we have a customer service award, a years of service award, fastest coder, bug squasher, biggest shark. You really have kind of an array to show the different cases of different departments. And for our strategy number 2, it's accounting for different needs at work. So people have different working styles and personalities, different work models, different locations. So a tip for planning team events that accommodate the different needs of people, you can survey for events, acknowledging the different interests and passions that each person has. And when those experiences happen, it's really important that I would say, like, for the surveys, it's important to understand high level what it is that your team is interested in pursuing. And then you can start to work back on what's your strategy for those events, depending on it. And when you start to plan those events a little bit more in advance, people will feel like, oh, there's something for me in this list of options that the company has given me. All right. And then the last one here is surveying for feedback from HR. So I think just asking your team if they feel recognized and appreciated goes a really long way. And then you work with the managers to educate and track that improvement. And asking the team, you know, what would you like to see improved, starting to put the power back in their hands. It's important, though, that you're actually taking action. So one thing that we like to do is have HR in the town halls or all hands, whatever is the terminology that you use internally, share what progress and changes, what it is that they're working on, and you know what suggestions came their way and why they're making certain initiatives happen. Giving those shout outs to the suggestions that we're taking to make sure that people feel heard. And as I said, doing those 360-degree reviews. So there's accountability and always. Also learning and repeating. So just knowing that surveys will help you figure out what is working versus what is not. But then you have to actually learn from these and you repeat the ones that are working and you just replace the ones that aren't. And it's a natural evolution in life that we kind of, you know, learn and we evolve from there.
Awesome. Thanks for all that, Lee. Got to give myself clear my throat here. Got a swig of water. So thank you for all that. Some of what I'm going to go through here might overlap with some of what Lee shared. So strategy 3, you know, foster belonging with the power of peer-to-peer appreciation. But first, you know, let's discuss some of the challenges. You know, favoritism, for example, proximity bias and cliques are other examples of challenges that can get in the way of fostering a sense of belonging when it comes to employee appreciation. Something we hear a lot about is disproportionate recognition. And it's not fun when the same 5 people in a company are being put in the spotlight over and over again, which is one of the reasons why we strongly suggest creating awards that touch more people in the organization. And Lee gave a great example of that back in one of the other slides there about different departments having different roles and creating awards for those different departments. And fun fact, you know, in regards to favoritism, this is crazy. 50% of employees believe that supervisors in their organizations practice favoritism. That's crazy. And in regards to proximity bias, you know, interesting research is now coming to light. In our hybrid remote world, where people work in offices and are in close proximity to their organizational leaders, they're often gaining more influence and opportunities. And in a study, 96% of executives admit that they're more likely to notice the contribution of an employee in the office more, even when the quality of work is the same in a remote employee. So interesting facts there. And in regards to cliques, you know, 43% of workers say that their office is populated by cliques. And all of these can result in resentment, decreased motivation, higher turnover rates. But the power of peer-to-peer recognition can help mitigate these issues. And before we get into peer-to-peer appreciation, we've included a quote here from Aitiken. I'm pretty sure I said that right. The founder of Jotform here. You know, it's a great reminder that leaders play a crucial role when it comes to inclusivity and fostering belonging throughout the organization. Big fan of quotes. But let's start by talking about what peer-to-peer recognition is. Peer-to-peer recognition is a form of social recognition where employees at all levels of the organization can acknowledge and thank one another. Traditionally, the act of recognition is only performed from the top down. And why does peer-to-peer work? So let's discuss, but before I get into it, and I see we're giving you a hint here at one of them, does anyone have any guesses on maybe what some of the other three might be? We see here that the first one is listed here, and I'll expand on each of these in a moment. Any guesses on what some of the other ones might be? Oh, it's like some people are reading my mind, or they can clearly see right through the next click. Awesome. No, I appreciate the responses there. You know, in regards to number one here, you know, recognition should be timely. You know, Lee mentioned this as well. In the moment, recognition is more meaningful and appreciated by staff. It's kind of like celebrating a birthday. And I'm going to use this example because I know some companies out there celebrate a whole month worth of birthdays on one day. For example, we're in March. You know, some companies might celebrate March 31st birthdays on March 1st. So, you know, it's more impactful when you celebrate in the moment and when they happen. Some of you nailed number two. So as for number two, it should be specific. You know, what exactly did they do? You can tell a story and describe the recognition in greater detail. You know, what behaviors did you see, and how did it impact you personally? You know, how did it make you feel? Consider this generic recognition here. So Susan, you did such an amazing job last week. Good work. I mean, that's still really good, and it's better than nothing. Versus Susan, I really appreciated the work you did on the presentation last week. Your slides were beautiful and it was well delivered. Lots of great takeaways for the team. Amazing work. Awesome, right? So essentially what you're doing is you're just expanding on thanks and you're going into greater detail. I do see someone actually got number three here. So number three, it should be frequent and encouraged as part of everyday culture. It's never too late to introduce a recognition program because with each new hire, it'll immediately be part of their culture. But it's really all about the leaders. They need to be the ones leading the way. And finally, number four, I don't think anyone got number four here, but before we get into touching on number four, I'm going to ask you all a really tough question here. And this is usually one of the toughest questions I ask HR leaders. It pertains to core values. So I'm going to ask you all right now, do you all know the core values in your own organization? I'd be curious to see if what the responses are here. I see some yeses, which is great. Yeah. It's okay if you say no, by the way, because most of the people I speak with generally say no. See, it spells our company name. So I love it when the core values have some type of acronym or something that ties in and makes it easier to remember. Awesome. So what we find when incorporating the core values and recognitions that it's really important, you know, tying your core values into how you celebrate and recognize great work in the company is a good way to build culture and appreciation and helps people live the mission and values of your organization. There's also an opportunity here to run reports so you can find out who your core value superstars are. And as for peer-to-peer recognition, I'm a huge fan of this, always advocated for it. So super happy to be here at Bucketlist because this is what we strongly encourage, is that it's a tool that really supports the 4 ways to make recognition impactful. You know, often the peers we work with definitely see more of the work than our managers or organizational leaders. With so many more eyes and ears, recognitions can be sent around in a more timely manner. It's more specific, it's more frequent, and we recognize each other based on core values. We can celebrate the fact that we're living in a company mission and values together. I see someone mentioned they can only hey, 1 or 2 is better than none. Oh, good job there. So just how impactful is peer-to-peer recognition? You know, we've run some of our own data, and it shows that when there is no peer-to-peer appreciation, the engagement within our recognition platform can go as low as 11%. But when peer-to-peer recognition is a feature that's made available and it's easy to for everybody and it's accessible, the engagement can skyrocket. You know, we've seen increases by up to 68%. So that's a massive difference there by including only manager to employee appreciation or giving everyone the ability to recognize each other. This is definitely a tool that can help distribute recognition so that more people are being recognized and feel the sense of belonging and that they feel valued. So now for strategy 4, showing appreciation through rewards is great. Make sure they're inclusive of different interests, passions, lifestyles. Some examples would be classes, experiences, gift cards, etc. But take into consideration that some people will find things fun and rewarding. Example, bungee jumping could be a fun reward for some people, but not all people. And honestly, the best way to know is to simply survey them, ask them. We recently just did that here at Bucketlist. We're soon going to be gathering for an all-company retreat. Our awesome HR leader, Katie, sent out a survey with a few options, asking each of us to select our top choice and our second choice from a list of experiences. It felt great to have a say, or at least the option to select an experience that means something to me. And actually, bungee jumping was one of the options. And I don't know if anyone's done it here. I didn't select bungee jumping. I don't know. I don't feel like that's for me. But also, perhaps it may be meaningful for some employees to share the reward with their friends and families. So group activities might be another good one. Trips to theme parks, as an example. We've also seen some other redemptions recently, which included aquarium passes, a class on how to write a fictional story, flight lessons, for example. That's a really cool one. So, and if you're not following us on LinkedIn already, give us a follow, because we like to share a lot of examples of cool experiences that we see redeemed on our platform. And we'll post the link here and we'll share it again at the end.
I got it in the chat there.
Awesome. Thank you. So when you're thinking about rewarding your staff, consider offering experiential rewards, but be sure that they can be redeemed based on the recipient's schedule. 2 tickets to a concert happening tomorrow is great, but what if they're not available, right? It seems kind of forced. Some other cool experiences we've seen people redeem for, tours like caves and jungles, beer and wine tours. And recently we saw someone redeem for the Lost World Caverns, which seems pretty cool. You could also offer dance classes, as I've mentioned, various restaurant experiences. We've had people here at Bucketlist even use their Bucketlist benefit for Michelin star restaurants. And just quickly on the Bucketlist benefit, we get 1 extra day vacation where we can use it for whatever we like. We also receive some monetary dollars that help contribute towards that experience so that we can have our own memorable experiences. And make sure it's something that can be redeemed based on the recipient's schedule. So I already gave you the example of tickets happening tomorrow. You don't want to create more stress or burden the employee, right? You want to be considerate of their time outside of work, right? So you reward an employee tickets for tomorrow, but they're a single parent and now need to find a babysitter and make all kinds of last minute arrangements. The thought is there and the attention is there, but maybe it doesn't align with the actual employee. And I mentioned this previously, but survey your staff to see what they like and actually curate options of things they enjoy. And I'll use this example here to maybe help paint a more clear picture. For example, Christmas lists, right? We often ask people, create a Christmas list, that way we can see what's meaningful to them. Same with birthdays. You always try to give a birthday gift that would resonate with someone, right? What does little Jimmy like? What can I get him for his birthday? What's on his birthday list? Same with employees. Survey them and they'll tell you what they like. The goal is to crowdsource your ideas, get feedback to make sure that whatever you reward people with, it'll be greatly appreciated. You don't want to give people something that they don't like or something they can't use. And I'll give you another example. I just spoke with an HR leader yesterday who received a coffee machine for her 10-year work anniversary. But the coffee maker she received wasn't any better than the one she already had. So really, she wasn't, although she appreciated it, really wasn't something that was personalized for her. So to take it next level, sure, it's great to be giving a gift because it's the right thing to do. But instead of that, try giving a gift to convey your appreciation by giving them something that they would love. To help you with that, you can even try adding a few questions into existing employee surveys or have managers ask their team about hobbies and interests. Another example would be during onboarding. As you're onboarding new hires, ask them some very simple questions like, what kind of food do you like? What do you like to do? What are some of the activities? You don't need to get super personal, but like it'll give you a sense of some of the things that your employees are looking for. And that might help you give some ideas on how you can reward them. Another recent survey we did here at Bucketlist, I'm on the social committee, so it's fun because I get to participate in these type of things. We asked people what we wanted to do internally as part of a virtual experience, and we actually landed on a Confetti escape room experience, which was so much fun. I'm not going to give anyone any tips, so don't come to me on how to escape because you got to do it for yourself. So check out Confetti for some fun experiences they have. And I've already mentioned this, but I'm going to double down on it again. Consider letting people choose what would be most meaningful to them, whether that's through a catalog or a list of offers that provide a variety of options. Like the Bucketlist company retreat survey I mentioned, it was great to have the option to even add choices. And I see some individuals here mentioning budget, so let's discuss that. Rewarding staff doesn't always have to be monetary. We've worked with many companies who've had no budget for rewards and have also had great success. Yeah, we get it. Budget is a common challenge. I've even seen some individuals here mention it in the chat. The good news is that rewards don't need to be expensive in order for them to be meaningful and to convey your appreciation. And as a takeaway for joining today, we can share some free low-cost examples with all of you as part of a follow-up to this session. So if you guys would like that, just drop a simple yes in the chat here, and we'll ensure to pass on that little document for you. Awesome. And while you're responding to the chat, let's hear some examples of non-monetary rewards that we've seen, or at least I'll share some with you. Preferred parking is one of them. So some organizations have a very large parking lot. So for some individuals who maybe would prefer not to walk across a large parking lot while it's raining or snowing, or depending what the weather's like, or maybe they just want to have that exclusive parking. So that's an example. Picking the music for the store or your work environment for the day. That's a great way to get the whole team included and they can all enjoy the reward together. I've also seen this one here, boss does your job for the day. That seems to be really popular in retail and restaurants, which I think is a lot of fun, right? Who doesn't want to see their boss do your job for the day, or at least half a day, right? And my favorite, which you can see here on the screen, and this is another real example, CEO calls your mom. Some people really feel appreciated if their family is involved. Receiving recognition from a senior leader may end up being one of the most memorable working experiences an employee will ever have in their career. So I really enjoy the CEO calls your mom. And yeah, over to you, Jenna. I'm not sure if you're on mute, but
yes, of course, my doorbell rings during a webinar and my dog barks. It's just
the
like
same guy
that's what's supposed to happen. We talked about this. I was just saying thank you so much, Lee and Aaron. Really great ideas going around, and I think that this is just great for all of us to learn a little bit more on, and really great conversations to just continuously be having and sharing. I'm going to pop up a question here. What are some awesome things you're doing right now to help people feel included? Would love for you to share in the chat. Is there quarterly gatherings for both in-person and virtual? Maybe like spinning a wheel to give everyone a chance to host a company weekly huddle. What sort of things are you doing within your organization?
Yeah, let's see it. You guys are really good at engaging with the chat. We actually do the wheel. So we have weekly huddles, and we do spin the wheel, and everyone's name is on there. So if someone doesn't feel comfortable doing it, we can remove their name, but it gives people a really cool opportunity to, put themselves out there and try something outside of their comfort zone. And I'll tell you, everyone always crushes it because we thrive in a world of recognition. So we always support the individual who is leading the charge on leading the company meeting. Yeah, we've seen some good ones here.
Cheers to peers. That's so cool. That's a good one.
Oh, cheers to peers. Yeah. Or
Yeah.
cheers for peers.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm still thinking about the CEO calls your mom or dad or whoever. I love spouses, kids, all the ideas. I thought that
Depending on
was
dynamic.
Yeah, that one's always popular. And, you know, it also speaks to the leadership, right? Because you see that the leadership's involved. And I saw some chat here. Yeah, the CEO calls your mom as an example, but of course, there's different situations and different families. So you can offer all different kinds of ways to offer that one.
Awesome. Another question I am going to pop up here is, what do you think the future of inclusivity looks like at your organization? Would love to hear from you if you wanted to share in the chat.
I'm going to double down on something I saw here, the donut app. You know, I'm a big fan of that. We use that internally here at Bucketlist. You randomly get paired up with someone within the company and you just have a 30-minute social and talk about things outside of work. And you really get to know people, especially in a virtual world, right? We don't have these in the meeting rooms that you would normally have.
over the counter kind of kitchen cafeteria moments don't exist in the remote world. You have to create them.
That's right. Now I want donuts.
Yeah, that would be delicious.
Heroes and donuts, big takeaways from this webinar. We oh yeah, I was just gonna say we actually
go for it.
We asked our own HR leader, Katie, the same question here. And her response was acknowledging that each individual has different wants, needs, goals, and a one-size-fits-all approach isn't inclusive. And I think you actually just mentioned this, Lee. Also creating a space for feedback and employees to have a voice is important. So creating those environments or those opportunities where individuals can gather.
Yeah, 100%. I'll just go through some key takeaways from today for you. So inclusivity is important in employee recognition and helping people feel valued. It also directly impacts company ROI. And, you know, the 6 pillars of employee appreciation. So being regular, immediate, specific, encouraging, location, and type. And then 4 strategies for inclusive appreciation. So appreciating diversity in the backgrounds, interests, passions, and job roles. Account for different needs at work, foster belonging with the power of peer-to-peer appreciation, and offer flexible and personalized rewards to show inclusive appreciation. I'm going to pop up another poll here. Would love for your participation. We always love to get feedback and would just love to hear from you if you enjoyed today's webinar. You know, were you able to take something away? Did you learn something new? Really appreciate your feedback.
Yeah, and I think it's important too that as each of you attend, you know, this webinar and future webinars, you're committing an hour of your time. So if you can have 1 or 2 really key takeaways, you know, something that you can take away from this session and future sessions, I would say it's worth your time. It's a lot of information that's being shared, but if 1 or 2 things really resonate with you, then I hope that you know, we've done our part here.
Awesome. And thanks so much, Aaron. I'm going to pass it back over to you for our next slide.
Awesome. Yeah, with all that's been said about 4 ways to make employee appreciation and include personalized experiences, you know, we're very passionate about many topics and would love to help you find solutions to even other organizational challenges like, you know, lowering turnover or recognizing amazing work and bringing your staff together through an engaging rewards and recognition platform. You know, that's what we do day in, day out. We have these conversations all the time, and we'd love to share best practices with you. You know, we've even built some really awesome programs with all sizes of organizations, you know, including some cool brands like you see here, RBC, Applebee's, Pabst Blue Ribbon, Peter Piper Pizza. So we're not limited to any industry or any company size. So if you're interested in learning more, then definitely let us know.
I'll just pop it up here if there is interest. Yeah. And the poll should be launching.
Yeah, we can show you ways to help automate certain processes like birthdays and work anniversaries. So you don't have to worry about missing those things. We can show you what the ROI of recognition is. So love to chat with you, if anything, to help educate you a little bit more.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone, for your engagement and participating. Lee, we're going to pass it back over to you.
Amazing. Thanks again. So just a quick overview on Confetti, but Confetti's platform is used by nearly 6,000 companies to help distributed teams primarily plan really memorable and fun virtual experiences. Our catalog is free to access, and it's pretty much a playground with just ideas and collections ranging from holiday parties, diversity, equity, and inclusion, professional development workshops. There's really something for everyone there. And all of our experiences are fully customizable. They have a happiness guarantee, making sure that each booking is personalized and very risk-free from your end. We have experiences starting at $7 per person, so also really much for any budget possible. We pride ourselves on an adored customer support team and an intuitive booking system, just making it super easy for you to plan. So you can, just as the slide says, quickly discover these events, let us do the heavy lifting. There's hundreds of experiences to choose from and dozens of collections. And our poll question that I would like to bring to the table is, we're doing a really cool HR networking mixer. And if you're interested in attending, it would be really great if you can click on the poll and say yes. If not, no worries, but just getting a community of people together. It will just be a networking experience that's really fun, and the ability for you to meet other professionals in the industry and, learn from other folks.
Love that, Lee. Love a mixer. They're always so much fun and the conversations are always so good. Just leave this poll up for a few moments. Awesome. And then for those of you, here's your professional development credits. So your HRCI number, if you're looking for that. We'll also be sending this out afterwards as well. I can also pop this into the chat for anyone. Sometimes that's helpful for copy and pasting. Awesome. Cool, and that's going to bring us into our Q&A. We welcome your questions. We also welcome for you to come connect with us on LinkedIn. It's always great to connect with like-minded individuals. And also if any other questions pop up, you can always reach out to us there as well. I'm going to pop the LinkedIns into the chat box here for you for easy access. And if you have any further questions, we would love to hear from you. We'd love to spend the last few moments of our time going over anything, answering anything for you. Oh, the HRCI. Yeah, I'll leave this screen up while we. I did have a question come through that I can get started with. Any suggestions or tips for getting employees involved who are spread out over several states?
Yeah, I don't mind taking this one here. I mean, we've mentioned this throughout this webinar here. As one example, try holding more virtual events and even consider Confetti, because when we had our session with Confetti, we had a lot of fun, and I think we still joke around about it even after the fact. Again, circling back to the escape room as one example. I wasn't on the team that won, but if we ever did it again, I think I would get closer to winning.
I love that. Thanks for the shout out. That's really sweet. And Bucketlist has been an amazing partner and such an advocate for employee well-being. And it's really great to be in a space with a bunch of people from the community that just care about the employees and who we're working with. So thanks for that shout out. That's sweet.
And I think we touched on this a little bit, but if either of you want to speak to this, do you need to spend money to have effective rewards recognition for team members? Any thoughts around that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, I can take this as well. And if Lee wants to add on, she can certainly add on. I mean, really, no, you don't need to have a large budget for this. I mean, there's almost no difference in success that we've seen from companies with a $0 budget as it pertains to rewards to companies with a fair budget. Having something is certainly better than having nothing. I don't know if Lee, if you have something you'd like to add on there, but that's my 5 cents, because in Canada now we don't have pennies, so I'm just rounding up to 5 cents.
I often share with people that at the end of the day, like Confetti, Bucketlist, whatever it is, we can't fix what I like to call is like just crappy culture, toxic culture. But I think at least for what Confetti provides is that if there is a toxic culture, you have an event And during those moments, you actually learn a little bit about the human being for just who they are. You recognize something about them, that they're funny, they see other qualities, and all of those other qualities build on empathy that you take back at work. And I think at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say with this is that if you put that good spirit and effort into your team and care about them, view them as individuals, all the other stuff is frosting and great. And they're tools to help improve and scale culture as the company grows. But at the end of the day, if you've got a person who cares, that's really the thing that's going to keep people loyal. So I completely agree with you, Erin.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Someone's looking for event ideas, curious if there's any favorite event that you've recently hosted or been a part of, and why.
Well, we know that Lee is in the event space, and I've definitely given her a massive shout out on all the events and activities that she can help run. But I'll give you another idea that we did internally as well. We did like a virtual trivia party. So leading up to the event, we surveyed all our staff, asking them for like baby photos, 2 truths and a lie, fun facts about themselves, and made it all part of the trivia, which was great because we ended up learning a lot of interesting facts about our peers. For example, one of our individuals was once robbed twice in Prague in the same day.
Oh my gosh.
Which he had an interesting story to tell around that. But we had a fun discussion, and it was nice to see everyone's baby photos and pets photos.
Yeah, I think that it's really, there's an element of creativity and that allows, if you can source activities that are fun and fresh and get people curious, like, I've never played that experience before. So like one of the experiences that gets really good reviews on Confetti is like traitorous trivia. So you have your classic trivia that's like, everyone knows there's a question, you provide answers, but in traitorous trivia, one of your team members actually knows the answer and they're trying to sabotage your team from winning by trying to convince you that you don't have the right answer. And then you can also call that person out. If anyone's familiar with a game like Werewolf, it's based kind of on that same like deception style game. And people just really find it fun, and it's like laughing and you're like, wait, you were lying this entire time, I trusted you. It's really funny.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun. I think I'd love a game like that.
That would be fun.
I think we have time for one more question here. Do you guys have any suggestions for cultivating engagement in a remote environment?
Sure. Running events like what Confetti has to offer is a great way to get employees engaged. It gets them excited about events that are coming up, and also find the cheerleaders in your organization to help influence the people in a positive way, right? So get people excited about these type of things. And also events like this create dialogue between employees, even after the event has ended. As I mentioned, we still talk about the escape room. And that's something that we talk about, like someone solving one of the challenging puzzles, right? How did you solve that puzzle? And like, we talked about those things after. So that's my suggestion. How about yourself, Lee?
I think that a lot of our culture is also built through like Slack teams, whatever those communities that you have. And we've created some really creative ones. I don't know if every company has the courage to do some of the Slack groups that we have. For example, one of the Slack groups that we have is like a yelling channel, and everything's in caps, but you're not like yelling about inappropriate things. You're yelling at like things like my coffee is cold, or like the printer is jammed, or the Amazon person rang the doorbell exactly when I was starting the webinar and the dog started barking. Like those are the things that we like yell about in the yelling channel. And then we have a hot takes. Again, all things that are like work appropriate, but I mean, you'll have everything like people being like, Mariah Carey can't sing, and then people are like, what? When Mariah Carey is amazing. And other people's like, no. You have like all kinds of like Twizzlers versus like red vines, or like which is the superior Oreo like flavor outside of the original. And then people are like, mint shouldn't be in chocolate, it tastes like toothpaste. And you get all kinds of ridiculous conversations that come out of there. But people who wouldn't connect naturally all of a sudden bond over whether mint should be in chocolate. And I think that those are really like creative little moments where you then meet that person. You're like, hey, we bonded over this really random thing like Mariah Carey or whatever.
I love that. That is so cool. I would totally be in the caps locks chat.
Just yelling.
Awesome. Well, that brings us to the hour. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking your time out of your day to be here with us and tuning in. Really, really appreciate it. Again, you can find us on LinkedIn if any questions come up, and we will be sending the recording out afterward with any of the credits as well. And Lee and Aaron, thank you so much. Such a great webinar today. Learned some really great things and awesome ideas.